一拳王先斋先生，创始人，他是开始是练的是形意拳，投的是郭云深大师。然后呢，王先生练形意拳练得非常好，最后他是在壮年的时候，就是郭云深老师就是没有了，就去世了。他走遍大江南北，就是拜访所有的名师名拳家，然后呢总结了，根据这么多年的实战经验，然后他就去形，把那形给去了，取意，然后开始就是利用人的生理，就是心理作用于生理，生理反过应作用人的心理，又利用这个哲学的这个道理，就是精神可以变成物质，然后是一个精神假借，就是所以就产生了站桩。开始站桩是空洞的，什么都没有，让你比如说抱着一球，大了掉了，小了瘪了不成，让你产生作用力与反作用力，就是生理作用于心理，心理反过作用于生理。这样通过一段时间的锻炼以后呢，确实是把没有物质的物质变成了物质，没有抱着球，确实是空的，而且确实感到真抱到球，感到了有张力。这样的话，就是利用这个矛盾，这样从而就改变你的生理生理这个状态，就是微循环加速，中枢神经得到休息，是滋养那个骨骼呀、肌肉啊、生理的器官，是内脏，所以得到了那个血液的浇灌，从而呢壮筋壮骨，换筋换骨，把所有的生理肌肉全变成强壮。这是站桩的一种特殊的训练。所以说就是不用力而变成了力，就是意念，就是精神。它在不动中求动，就是静中求动，然后动中求静，然后相互作用的情况下呢，把人变得非常灵敏，力量也非常强大。所以在这方面呢，就是一拳讲究是拳本无法，有法即空，不讲方法，不讲招数，它讲的是真实力量。它就是通过站桩，通过施力产生的内劲儿，产生的爆发力，而且它的灵活反应非常灵敏，就跟那个动物是一样的，跟那个猫科动物是一样的。所以它处理事情的果断性和力量性，就无需去你想着产生什么那个招数方法，他的手只要触到你身上哪儿，都让对方可以失去战斗力，而且速度变化极快。所以这个就是在拳术中、技击中，它有它的独特。一拳锻炼要说简单也是最简单，要说要高深也是最难，他一辈子也练不到头。他就是首先要注意的方向就是第一，要入静放松，首先放松，周身放松以后，然后有一个精神假借，就是比如说我抱一个球，周身很平均的放松，抱着一个球，这个球呢不能松，掉了也不成，紧了也不成，无形之中产生一个有撑劲儿有抱劲儿，矛盾力，就是作用力与反作用的相互作用。这样的话就使体内产生变化，时间一长，血液循环通过这个相互作用，血液循环加快，有这个意念。首先有兴趣在哪儿？就是你身体发热、发胀，由浅入深，先是入皮，第二入肉，第三有入骨髓。这是站的时间越长，年头越长，这个效果越不一样，越好。血循环充分循环，微循环只要一充分循环，就是新陈代谢，就把那个身体的废料利用毛细血管带走了，养料供应上去了。这本身这身体就洗刷你里头这个垃圾，就是等于是放松，新陈代谢。其实一拳王先斋先生就是主张以健身、强身、自卫为主，他把技击搁的是自卫，就是你像一拳的所有的这练习方法，在技击方面他是不主张攻击，他主张后发制人，就是说他产生一种就是德，就是不要主张去攻击别人，就是防卫别人，在防卫之中他有矛盾，他防卫本身就是攻击，就是一拳不分攻击和防守，他防守就是攻击，攻击就是防守，他的两者都是矛盾的对立统一。 从小呢就是练的是少林拳，是我父亲的朋友，练了17年少林拳，练了17年少林拳，觉得挺用功，挺下功夫。最后就发现了自己练就知道了，什么东西练的都觉得挺好，但是力量绝对就不会练不出来。而且这在武术来说，在拳术的技击方面，最重要的就是力量。最后就听这个朋友介绍，这个义拳是专门练力量。后来呢，我们就通过朋友介绍，就认识了这个义拳的崔有成先生。去了之后一听劲儿，的确是力量好。这样的话，就投在这儿了，就是义拳门下，就是开始站桩。然后一站桩呢，头一天站桩，我就感兴趣，我知道这是真东西，而且确实效果不一样，几天就变化。然后就是一下就是以前17年的东西，一点都不练了，就一下就是专门练义拳。后来就是崔有成介绍我到王明奎先生，跟王明奎先生也不错关系，也一块练习义拳。从王明奎那儿，后来又结识了姚宗勋，就是义拳的掌门人姚宗勋。姚宗勋一见面也挺喜欢我，真挺好，就到我们家去住了有1年，就是每天都弹拳，晚上弹拳。后来姚先生走了以后呢，是每星期2、星期5必到我们家。那会儿就是夏承清和我，还有我弟弟，在我们家吃完饭就弹拳。义拳虽然那个很容易的入门练，但是说一定要有老师指导，因为什么？它毕竟是有精神诱导和意念。说这东西里有人指导呢，就是进步的也快，也安全。如果没有人指导去瞎练，就很容易走偏差，误入歧途，就是走火入魔。OK。
Yi Chuan is an internal Chinese martial art that Master Wang Xianchai developed in the first half of the 20th century. Wang, a student of Xing Yi Chuan master Guo Yunshen, combined the fundamental principles of various Chinese martial arts to create an art that underlines the importance of good health and using the mind to training the whole body as one. In fact, Yi means mind, intention or will, while Chuan means boxing or fist. Yi Chuan rejects the elaborate sets of predetermined movements that are typical to other Chinese arts, be it Tai Chi or Shaolin Gong Fu. Instead, Yi Chuan has different types of training methods that slowly build internal movement and then turn it step by step into external movement. This external movement is then internalized again as we return to the beginning to find that although seemingly the same, the training that we did in the beginning has now taken a whole new meaning. The very first training method and the core of Yi Chuan is stationary posture training. We stand, sit and lie in various postures and use mental images to stimulate internal movement. Slowly our whole body begins to respond to our mental images and we begin to feel internal movement. Having thus united our body to work as one, we then begin to externalize this internal movement through testing the power exercises. Now we do slow movements against the resistance of our mind, as if moving in water. First we do testing the power exercises, standing in place, and then we incorporate stepping into it. Slowly our movements become freer and freer until we can dance against the resistance of the air like a dragon rowing in the clouds. Push hand training involves two people doing testing the power training together. As we learn to externalize the power through testing the power exercises and become more acutely aware of the resistance, we can start to learn how to release our internal power out. Releasing the power exercises engage the whole body to produce a short burst of power. Standing posture training involves assuming a posture and focusing the mind on mental images while keeping the body relaxed. Visualizing doing something while staying stationary slowly results in internal movement that engrosses the whole body, a movement that cannot be seen from outside but that can be felt from the inside. In all the postures, hold your head up. Imagine that you are holding a soft paper ball under your chin against your throat. Don't let the ball drop, but at the same time, don't press it so hard that it would change its shape either. Imagine also that there is a teacup on top of your head. Keep your head straight up and don't let the cup fall to any direction. Your hip should have a feeling of sitting down, as if you were about to sit on a chair. Your head pointing up and your hip wanting to sit down straightens up your backbone to its natural state. It's important to remember that both holding your head up and sitting down are purely mental images, not something that you should do externally to physically straighten your backbone, as this would cause tension. Simply relax your body and let the mental images do the work. Bend your knees slightly, allowing your weight to move towards the balls of your feet. Your feet point straight ahead or slight outwards. Your knees should point in the same direction as your feet. Look straight ahead as if you were looking at some distant spot. Your ears are as if listening to a distant rain. Remember that all the movement in the mental images stay at mental level. Physically, you stay relaxed and let your mind do all the work. Hold your arms in front of your chest as if you were embracing a big paper ball. Don't let the ball fall from your hands, but don't hold it so tightly that it would change its shape either. Imagine that you also have paper balls under your armpits. Don't let them fall, but don't press them too hard either. Finally, imagine that you have small paper balls between all of your fingers. Hold them there without squeezing them out of shape. Stay relaxed and focus your mind on embracing the big paper ball against your chest.
提叉状
Point your fingers at the ground. Imagine that you are trying to pull your fingers out of the ground. Then imagine that you are pushing your fingers into the ground. In both cases, the resistance is too hard for your hands to move. Slowly switch between these two mental images. Remember that you still have the paper balls in your armpits. Don't crush them and don't let them fall. Lift your hands up so that your forefingers are pointing at your eyebrows. Your palms are facing upwards at about 45-degree angle. Imagine that you're holding a big paper ball in your hands. The wind tries to blow it away from your hands. You hold the ball so that the wind can't blow it away, but not so tightly that the shape of the ball would change. When the wind dies, you hold the ball up, and when the wind blows, you hold the ball so that the wind can't carry it away.
伏案状
With your hands at chest height, turn your palms downwards as if resting your hands and forearms on a board that is floating on water. The board tries to move to 6 directions, but you keep it stationary by resisting its movements. When the board tries to move away from you, pull it back. When the board tries to move towards you, push it forward. When the board moves to left or right, resist its movement by moving it to the opposite direction. When the board moves upwards, press it down, and when it sinks downwards, pull it up.
伏案状
Lower your hands down to about navel level with your palms towards the ground. Imagine that you are holding 2 air-filled balls below the water surface. When the balls move forward, pull them back, and when they move backwards, push them forward. When they try to move towards each other, hold them apart, and when they try to move away from each other, move them towards each other. When they start to sink, pull them upwards, and when they try to come up, push them down. The time to move to testing the power exercises is when you begin to feel internal movement in the stationary posture training. Testing the power exercises translate the feeling of power generated by stationary posture training into external movements. Even though there is now external movement, the body stays relaxed and the mind still does all the work. All movement is done as if swimming in the air. Do the exercises so slowly that you feel the air resisting your movement, as if you were doing the movements in water. When starting to do testing the power exercises, it's good to do the movements a bit bigger. The movements get smaller as you find the resistance. Remember to use your whole body to do the movements, not just your hands. At the same time, remember to stay relaxed and let your mind do the work.
其他事例
Imagine that you are pulling your fingers out of the ground. The resistance is strong, but slowly your hands come up. Then push your fingers back into the ground. The ground is hard, but your fingers are like railroad nails, and slowly they sink in. Switch slowly between pulling your fingers out of the ground and pushing them into it. Your body functions as a counterweight to your hands, going down as the hands come up and coming up as the fingers push down. Imagine that you have a big spring between your hands. Press it slowly together, feeling its resistance. Then slowly allow it to extend out again, resisting and controlling its tendency to spring out fast. Switch slowly between pressing and releasing the spring. Be careful not to drop or crush the paper balls that you are still holding against your chest and in your armpits. Imagine that the wind is trying to blow away the paper ball that you are holding up in your hands. When the wind blows, tighten your grip on the ball, and when the wind dies, slowly push the ball back up and hold it there. Imagine that your hands and forearms are resting on a board that's floating on water. When the board tries to move towards you, push it away. The water resists, and it takes all your strength to push the board slowly away. When the board starts to move away from you, pull it back. Again, there is strong resistance, and you just manage to pull the board back. If you notice that you start to tense your body, make the mental image slightly lighter. Your hands are resting on a wooden board that is floating on water. Slowly push it underwater, feeling the resistance. Then slowly allow it to resurface, all the time controlling it and not letting it pop out fast. Then push it down again. When the board floating on water starts to move to the left, move it to the right. And when the board wants to move to the right, move it to the left. Your left hand should not cross your body's center line over to the right side of it, and vice versa. The 6 different directions of power that you have practiced using the mental image of a board floating on water can be combined into one exercise where you switch between the directions freely. You might find it easier first to do them in order, one after another, and when this feels comfortable, start to move freely between them. The sensation of power and resistance should be continuous. There should be no empty moments between the movements. They should flow from one to another without any breaks. You can do the 6 directions of power also when holding the 2 balls underwater with your hands at navel level. In addition to front and back, left and right, and up and down, you now also have the balls moving towards each other and away from each other. After training the directions in pairs, you can combine them freely into one smooth, continuous testing the power exercise. In the sideways postures, the weight is about 70% on the supporting foot that is planted flat on the ground, while the front foot only has the ball of the foot on the ground, carrying only about 30% of the weight. Because the posture is one-sided, it is important to spend the same amount of time on both sides. The front hand is held slightly higher than the back hand, and the eyes look over the knuckles of the front hand. The front foot, its knee, the front hand and the nose all point in the same direction. Imagine that you are embracing a big tree with all your body. When the tree starts to fall forward, hold it back so that it can't move, and when it falls towards you, push it forward so that it stays in place. When the tree falls to the left, move it to the right and vice versa, keeping it in place. When the tree starts to sink, pull it up, and when it goes upwards, pull it down. Turn your hands so that your index fingers are pointing forwards and your palms are facing each other. Imagine that something is hanging from your hands and you hold it steady. That something tries to move forward and backward, left and right, and up and down. Each time it tries to move, you prevent its movement with a power to the opposite direction. Imagine that you are holding up a big paper ball in your hands. When the wind tries to blow it away, you hold it tighter so as not to let it go, and then the wind calms down, you hold it up, ready to tighten your hold should the wind start to blow again. Lower your hands to about navel level and hold two air-filled balls underwater. The balls move forward and backward, towards each other and away from each other, and up and down. You stop their any movement with a movement to the opposite direction so that the balls effectively stay in place.
伏虎状。
About 70% of your weight is on your back foot. Imagine that you're holding a lying tiger down. Your forward hand holds its head and your back hand is on its waist. No matter how the tiger moves to get away, you prevent its movement, making sure that it can't get away.
降龙状。
Your front foot points to the side and you turn to look backwards. Keep the back leg's heel off the ground and keep your backbone extended like in all the other postures. Imagine that you're restraining a dragon so tightly that it can't move 1 inch. Here various testing the power exercises are combined into one continuous flowing exercise. In the beginning of the training, however, all the different exercises should be trained one by one before combining them in this way. Testing the power exercises in the sideways standing postures are very similar to those done with the feet next to each other. No matter how the board floating on water moves, you move it to the opposite direction, thus creating contradictory directions of power. If the board moves away from you, pull it towards you, and if it moves towards you, push it away, and so on. When testing the power in the hook hands posture, imagine holding a ball between your hands. First you try to lift it, but it doesn't move. Then you try to pull it, but since it doesn't budge, you turn the palms downwards and try to press it down. That failing, you attempt to push it forward. Since the ball still doesn't move, you turn your palms towards each other, holding the ball between them, and try to lift it again, thus starting the exercise from the beginning.
摩擦步。
After we can clearly feel the resistance of the air when doing testing the power exercises, standing in one place, we can start doing them together with stepping. The basic stepping exercise in Yi Quan is called friction stepping. As the name implies, when we take a step, we should feel resistance against our leg as if we were walking in water. In friction stepping exercise, the feet first come together before stepping foot steps out at a 45-degree angle. It is the same process no matter if we are moving forwards or backwards. First our feet come together in the center, our weight on only one leg, and then stepping foot steps out in a 45-degree angle. Here friction stepping is done with the hands pulling and pushing in harmony with the leg movement. In sitting postures, our feet can relax as they don't need to carry our weight. Place your heels on the ground and hook your toes slightly backwards as if pulling something with your feet. Imagine that you're holding a paper ball with each of your feet against the ground. Hold them down so the wind can't blow them away, but not so hard as to change their shape. Imagine also that you have a bigger ball between your knees. Hold it with your knees so that it doesn't fall, but not so tightly that its shape would change. Your upper body is just like when standing. Your head is pointing up and your hip is sitting down. The mental images are basically the same as when doing the same exercises in standing postures. Just like when standing, you try to pull your fingers out of the ground and then try to insert them into the ground. Because now your feet don't have to carry your weight, they can easily move together with your hands. When you're pulling your fingers out of the ground, you are also pulling with your feet. And when you're inserting your fingers into the ground, you also press down with your feet. With your palms facing your body, imagine that you are holding a paper ball against your chest. Don't let it fall, but don't squeeze it so tightly as to change its shape either. Remember that you also have paper balls in your armpits that you have to hold in place but not crush. Lift your hands up with palms facing away from your body so that your index fingers point at your eyebrows. Imagine that you're holding a big paper ball on your hands and that the rising wind tries to blow it away from your hands. You hold the ball so that the wind can't blow it away, but not so tightly that its shape would change. When the wind dies, you hold the ball up, and when the wind blows, you hold the ball so that the wind can't carry it away. Turn your palms downwards and imagine that your hands are resting on a board that is floating on water. The board moves to 6 directions, forward and backward, left and right, and up and down. No matter which direction the board tries to move it to the opposite direction so that it can't move. This way each direction includes its opposite direction. There is forward and backward, and so on. Your feet are part of the movement just the same way as they are when you do this exercise standing up.
伏案坐式
Imagine that you're holding an air-filled ball underwater with each hand. The balls move to 6 directions, forward and backward, towards each other and away from each other, and up and down. Again, no matter which direction the balls try to move, you move them to the opposite direction to keep them in place. Your feet should move along with your hands as your whole body works as one. The main difference between doing testing the power exercises standing up and sitting down is that when sitting down, our feet can better go along with the hands as they don't need to carry our weight. Otherwise, there are few differences.
撑抱状坐式示例
Imagine that you are holding a big spring between your hands. Press it together. As you press, you feel the resistance of the spring. Then slowly release the spring, all the time controlling how fast it can extend out. Your knees accompany your hands, but be careful not to drop or crush the paper ball you are holding between them.
推脱坐式示例
Imagine that you are holding up a big paper ball. When the wind starts to blow, hold it tighter so that the wind can't carry it away, but not so tightly as to crush it. When the wind dies, hold the paper ball up, all the time ready to hold it tighter should the wind start to blow again.
坐式前后伏案示例
Imagine that your hands and forearms are resting on a board that is floating on water. When the board tries to move towards you, push it away. When the board starts to move away from you, pull it back. Notice how the legs accompany the hands in the movement so that the whole body works as one.
坐式上下示例
Slowly press the board underwater, feeling the resistance. Then slowly allow it to resurface, all the time controlling it and not letting it pop uncontrollably out of water. Then press it down again. Make sure that your feet accompany the movement.
坐式左右示例
When the board floating on water starts to move to the left, move it to the right. And when the board wants to move to the right, move it to the left. Your left hand should not cross your body's center line over to the right side, and vice versa.
《坐式综合实例》
The 6 directions of power, forward and backward, up and down, and left and right, can be combined into one exercise where you flow freely from one direction to another. You'll probably find it easier first to do them in order, one after another, and after this feels comfortable, start to move freely between them. The sensation of power and resistance should be continuous, and the legs should be a part of the movement.
坐式综合实例发力
When the resistance of the air becomes so heavy that we can hardly move when doing testing the power exercises, it is time to learn to release the power that we have developed in stationary posture training and learn to externalize with testing the power training. Releasing the power is a short burst of power issued with the whole body, and it can be done to any direction. We can also do the sideway posture sitting down, so that we have a distinct front leg and back leg in addition to having a distinct front hand and back hand. Since we are sitting down, our weight stays in the middle. We still have the paper balls under the balls of the feet that we hold in place without crushing them. Otherwise, the sideways sitting postures follow the same guidelines as the sideways standing postures.
起集桩坐式。
Just like in fighting posture, when standing up, we embrace a thick tree that moves to 6 directions, forward and against us, left and right, and up and down. And we resist the movements of the tree, keeping it in place. Because the tree is big and heavy, we need to use our whole body to keep it from moving.
起集桩勾挂式。
Turn your hands so that your index fingers are pointing forwards and your palms are facing each other. The front hand is slightly ahead of the back hand, as in all sideways postures. Imagine that something is hanging from your hands and that it tries to move forward and backward, left, right, and up and down. Hold it steady and don't let it move. Testing the power exercises sitting sideways are basically the same as testing the power exercises standing sideways. Because we now don't have our weight on our legs, we can keep our legs more relaxed and their movements more nimble. As your feet accompany your hand movements, remember not to crush the paper balls that you're holding against the ground with the balls of your feet, but at the same time maintain enough pressure on them so that wind cannot blow them away.
坐式起集桩混元施力。
After doing testing the power exercises for all the 6 directions of power, forward and backward, left and right, and up and down, you can combine them into one continuous exercise where power flows from one direction to another without any break. Here the 6 directions are combined with the hook hand testing power exercise, where you first try to lift the ball that you're holding between your hands. When it doesn't budge, you try to pull it. Unable to pull it, you turn your hands downwards and try to press it down. Since the ball still won't move, you try to push it. Still unable to budge it, you turn your palms towards each other and try to lift the ball again, thus returning to the beginning of the exercise.
坐式几级桩，综合施力发力。
When the resistance in testing the power exercises grows so big that you can hardly move, you can release the power against it. Releasing the power is a short burst of power generated with the whole body.
坐式几级桩摩擦步。
You can also combine testing the power exercises with friction stepping when you're sitting down. Just like in the standing up version, the feet meet in the middle before separating again. Friction stepping can be combined with various testing the power exercises. The whole body moves and expresses the mental image of the current testing the power exercise. In practice, this becomes a whole body testing the power exercise. The same positions that we do standing up and sitting down can also be done lying down. There are two major benefits in this. First, even bedridden people can train and reap the benefits of Yi Quan. Second, in both standing up and sitting down positions, our backbone carries our upper body weight against the gravity. When we train lying down, our backbone can relax and be as living as possible. The lying positions are quite identical to those standing up. The major difference is that you hook your toes and feet slightly backwards, as if you were pulling something back. Imagine that you are holding a paper ball against the wall with each foot. Don't let the wind carry the balls away, but don't push them so hard as to change their shape either. You are also holding a paper ball between your knees. Don't let your knees fall sideways, because then the ball would be carried away by the wind. But don't squeeze the ball out of shape either. When doing the lying postures, you can have a thin, hard pillow under your head if you like.
Cheng抱状躺式。
Just like in standing up or sitting down version of this posture, embrace a big paper ball against your chest. Hold it without letting the wind carry it away, but without squeezing it out of shape. Remember also that you are holding paper balls in your armpits.
推脱状躺式。
Imagine that you're holding a big paper ball in your hands. When the wind tries to blow it away, you tighten your hold on it so that it won't move, and when the wind dies down, you hold the ball up, ready to tighten your hold should the wind try to carry the ball away again.
伏案状躺式。
Imagine that you are standing in water and place your hands and forearms on a wooden board floating on water. The board moves to 6 directions, forward and backward, left and right, and up and down, and you resist its every move with a movement to the opposite direction, keeping it in place. When we do testing the power exercises lying down, our feet can accompany our hands just like in sitting postures. As our feet are a part of the movement, we have to be careful with the paper balls that we are holding against the wall with the balls of our feet, and the bigger one that we are holding between our knees. We should never crush them or let the wind carry them away. All movements should be continuous, and there should be no break when you change the direction of your movement. There should all the time be a sensation of resistance to your every movement. Remember to stay relaxed and let your mind do the work.
撑抱状施力。
Imagine that you're holding a big spring between your hands. Slowly press it together and then, controlling it all the time, let it gradually extend back before pressing it together again.
推脱施力，
When the wind tries to blow away the big paper ball that you are holding, lower it slightly as you tighten your hold on it. When the wind dies, push it back up again, all the time ready to tighten your hold should the wind start blowing again.
前后施力，
Imagine that you're standing in water and place your hands on a board floating on water. When the board starts to move towards your chest, push it away, and when it starts to move away, pull it towards yourself.
上下施力，
Imagine that you're standing up in water with your hands on a board that is floating on water. When the board starts to sink down, lift it up, and when it starts to rise, press it down. Use your whole body to lift up and to press down.
左右施力，
You're standing in water with your hands on a board of wood floating on water. When the board tries to move to the right, move it to the left with your whole body, and when it tries to move to the left, move it to the right.
综合施力再发力，
Just like when standing up and sitting down, you can combine various testing the power exercises into one continuous exercise when lying down. Flow from one exercise to another without a break and make sure that you don't drop or crush any of the paper balls that you are holding. You can also add releasing the power into the combined testing the power exercise when you feel that the resistance has grown so strong that moving is difficult.
"综合施力带摩擦步，
Friction stepping can also be combined with testing the power exercises when lying down. The movement is quite free as long as the sensation of power is continuous and the whole body movement is coordinated. In other words, hands and feet should support each other instead of moving independent of each other. If you pull or push, your whole body, including the hands and feet, must be a part of that pushing or pulling. Holding feet up in this way can be rather strenuous, so be careful to stay as relaxed as possible.
OK， 推手，
Pushing hands training is often called two-person testing the power exercise. While pushing hands training allows us to train many aspects of Yi Quan, it centers on the idea of sensitivity. Place your arms in contact with your partner's arms and move freely, trying to feel out his power and intention so that you can control his center of balance while he does the same to you. As the name implies, you can push your partner away if you get his center of balance. Like always in Yi Quan, you should try to stay relaxed. The image is more like two snakes wrestling than two young bulls going head to head. Relaxation carries the seed of change, while tension renders us slow and clumsy. The exercise should all the time remain living and ever-changing. The intensity of the training should be adjusted according to the people doing the exercise and their goals. The idea is that an 80-year-old grandmother can safely train with a young martial artist, and both can learn. After you can easily combine the 6 directions of power into one flowing testing the power exercise and combine the 6 directions in pairs with friction stepping, you're ready to move on to putting the combined testing the power exercise together with free stepping. Your hands are resting on a board that's floating on water. The board tries to move to 6 directions: forward and backward, left and right, and up and down, and you move the board to the opposite direction, controlling its every move. There are no rigid patterns for stepping. Simply step in harmony with the current direction of power and make sure that you constantly feel the resistance of the air. Start slowly so that you don't lose the sensation of power for a moment. As you move around, you focus your whole being on the current direction of power. If you are pulling, all of you, body and mind, pulls. And if you are pushing, all of you pushes. Yi Chuan's health dance is where all our work comes together. It's an advanced level exercise where we flow in movement all the time, feeling the resistance of the air on each and every part of our body. The sensation of power is ever present. There are no set movements or patterns to follow. Even the directions of power have melted away. Our every move is a free form testing the power exercise. The forms of the poster training have melted away, and our movement is simply an expression of our mind. Body and mind work as one. Now we are dragons rowing in the clouds. All this free movement was inherently present in our stationary poster training when we started to use mental images to generate internal movement. Now we are ready to find dancing in our motionless poster training, thus completing the circle. Our poster training has entered a new world of unforeseen depths. The mustard seed has grown into a tree that will produce new seeds that will grow into other trees, guiding our training to ever-increasing internal richness. The never-ending road has just begun. Wang Xiangchai, the founder of Yi Chuan, emphasized the similarities between Yi Chuan and calligraphy, the Chinese art of brush writing. Yi, the mind, leads the brush of the calligraphist just like it leads the body of the Yi Chuan practitioner. Everything begins with the mind and finds its expression in external movement. The body of an Yi Chuan practitioner has to be nimble and pliable like the hairs of the brush. The movement of the brush is like that of our body when we dance the health dance, soft but filled with focus and intention. It is the softness that makes expressing power possible. In Yi Chuan, we can't develop and express natural power if we don't heed relaxation. Only when we become soft and pliable like the brush, we can release the whip-like power of Yi Chuan. In calligraphy, the artist must learn to express power through the soft brush. The brush can become a knife that cuts out powerful lines on paper.
长的。开始吗？那我就写了啊。这里边的诗啊，长点儿，还有我这个意见。真热！好。